You know that feeling, right? You're in a super quiet meeting or maybe a library, and all of a sudden your stomach just lets out this massive roar. It's that universal signal for hunger. But what is actually going on inside your body when that happens? Because I'll tell you, it is so much more than just an empty stomach. It's this incredibly complex survival system. And for a lot of us, it feels like a system we're just constantly fighting against.
I mean, if you've ever tried to manage your weight or even just eat a little healthier, you know this battle. It really feels like you're fighting against your own body's signals. And honestly, it can be so frustrating. Well, it turns out you are fighting biology. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly why. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start with the basics, what hunger actually is. Then we'll meet the key hormones that run the show and see where all the decisions get made up in your brain. We'll also untangle real hunger from those pesky cravings. And, this is a big one, we'll look at why diets so often seem to backfire before wrapping up with some smarter ways to manage hunger by working with your body, not against it.
Okay, so first things first, what really is hunger? It's so easy to just think of it as a sign that your stomach's empty, but the reality is way more sophisticated than that. At its core, it's a fundamental survival mechanism. Think of it like your body's own internal fuel gauge. It's this super coordinated system where your gut, your hormones, and your brain are all in a constant group chat, making sure you have enough energy to, live. It's not a flaw in the system, it's a feature, and it's designed to keep you alive. So, how does this whole system talk to itself? Well, the main messengers are hormones. These are basically little chemical text messages that travel through your bloodstream, carrying critical updates about your energy levels from your body up to your brain.
And to really get it, we can simplify this whole conversation down to two main players. On one side, you've got ghrelin. Just think of this as the go hormone. Your stomach releases it when it's empty, and its whole job is to shout up to your brain, hey, time to get some food. Then on the other side, you've got leptin. That's the stop hormone. It's released from your body's fat cells, and it tells your brain, all right, we're good on energy, you can stop eating now. It's this constant push and pull between go and stop.
And this chart shows the timing perfectly. See that purple line for ghrelin? It spikes right before you'd normally eat a meal, which is what drives that hungry feeling. But then as soon as you start eating, look at it, it just plummets. At the exact same time, those other lines, which are your fullness hormones, start to climb, signaling that fuel is on the way. It's really a beautifully orchestrated dance.
So you've got all these hormonal messages being sent out from your gut and your fat cells. But where are they all going?
Well, they're all headed to one very specific place in your brain that acts like the ultimate mission control for your appetite.
And that place is called the hypothalamus. You can think of it like a switchboard that's just constantly listening to those hormone signals. It's got one set of neurons that acts as the on switch for hunger. They hear that go signal from ghrelin and make you want to eat. And it has another set of neurons that are the off switch. They get the stop signal from leptin and tell you you're full. Now, I know this diagram looks a little complicated, but the main takeaway here is actually pretty simple. Just look at all the arrows. You can see signals coming from the stomach, the intestines, your fat cells. All of them are traveling up to the brain. This shows it's not just some simple on-off switch. It's a whole network, a complex feedback loop dedicated to keeping you fueled up and alive. Okay, so that's the biological need for energy, but what about that sudden, intense desire for one specific food, like chocolate cake or pizza, even when you're not really that hungry? Well, that's not hunger, that's a craving, and it comes from a totally different system in your brain. This slide here breaks it down perfectly. See, real physical hunger, it kind of builds up slowly. And when you're truly hungry, almost any food sounds good because your body just wants energy. But a craving? A craving hits you like a ton of bricks. It's this intense, sudden urge for a very specific food. And it's usually tied to an emotion or a trigger, like just smelling a bakery as you walk by. Yeah, so here's the crucial part. Cravings are handled by your brain's reward system. It's the same system that deals with pleasure and motivation, and it's all about the chemical dopamine. This reward system is so powerful, it can completely ignore the fullness signals coming from your gut. It's the reason why you can be totally stuffed from dinner, but somehow you still have a separate dessert stomach. That's the reward system at work. Okay, this brings us to the big question. If we understand all this, why is it so ridiculously hard to lose weight and keep it off? Why do so many diets seem to backfire? Well, the answer is that when you cut calories, your body thinks it's starving. And when it thinks it's starving, it unleashes this powerful biological defense to get that weight back. Just look at this table. When you lose weight,
Your hunger hormone, ghrelin, actually goes up. And at the same time, all your key fullness hormones, leptin and the others, they all go down. Your body is literally cranking up the go signal and dialing down the stop signal. The result? You feel hungrier and less full after eating than you did before you even started the diet. But wait, there's more. Your body also does this thing called metabolic adaptation. It basically becomes more fuel efficient, like it's going into low power mode. Your metabolism, the amount of energy you burn just existing, slows down way more than it should based on your new weight. Your body is desperately trying to conserve every single calorie. And just how powerful is this? There was a famous study on the Biggest Loser contestants, and what they found was staggering. 6 years after the show ended, their metabolisms were still suppressed. On average, they were burning almost 500 fewer calories per day than you'd expect for someone their size. That is a massive biological headwind to fight against, every single day. And that brings us to maybe the most important point of this entire conversation. This quote from the research really says it all. Gaining weight back after a diet isn't a failure of your willpower. It's not because you lost motivation. It is a predictable, physiological response driven by these incredibly powerful biological systems that are just trying to protect you from what they perceive as starvation. So, what are we supposed to do then? Well, if fighting your own biology is a losing battle, maybe the only option is to start working with it. So let's look at a few strategies that are actually based on the science we've just been talking about.
First, you can start leveraging those satiety signals. That means focusing on foods that are high in things like protein and fiber, because we know those boost your fullness hormones. Second, work with mechanical cues. Foods that take up a lot of space, like big salads or soups, physically stretch your stomach, and that sends a powerful "I'm full" signal to your brain. Third, manage your hormonal environment. Things like not getting enough sleep or being super stressed can crank up your hunger hormones. And finally, get to know your triggers. Start to pay attention and learn the difference between real hunger and a craving that's just driven by emotion.
Ultimately, this completely changes the perspective. Hunger isn't the enemy here, it's a signal. So instead of trying to crush it or just white-knuckle your way through it, the goal is to learn how to listen to it, to understand what your body is actually trying to tell you. It's about moving from a battle to a conversation. So the next time your stomach growls or a craving hits out of nowhere, maybe you won't see it as a failure of willpower. Instead, you can see it for what it is, a complex biological signal. And just knowing that, how might you choose to respond differently? That right there is the real power of understanding this science.